Hey, bring me some tea now.
Hold on, I'm doing the dishes.
What? Stop that and bring me the tea quickly. Can't you follow my orders?
But, what a useless wife you are. Make me some sweet coffee, please. But there are so many dishes to do.
Leave them for later. Just do what we say, useless wife.
The ones ordering me around right now are my husband John and my mother-in-law. John is lounging in the living room, fiddling with his phone and acting like he's the king. My mother-in-law glances at me maliciously while eating a cake she'd taken from the fridge. I think she could have made her own coffee while she was at it. But she seems to take pleasure in bossing me around, so I guess she just wants me to do something for her. I'm Hannah, a 30-year-old working mother. I got married when I was 25, had a child, and then returned to work. Currently, I live with my husband, our 4-year-old son, and my mother-in-law in my husband's parents' house. We ended up living with her because John insisted. John told me my mother-in-law was so devastated that she couldn't eat after my father-in-law passed away. At that time, I was certainly worried and wanted her to eat properly, so we decided to live with her to try and lift her spirits, but she seemed to perk up quite a bit after I arrived. She's been scheming on how to bully me, her eyes gleaming like a predator that spotted its prey. I was worried about her, but now I feel like it was unnecessary. I've cooked meals that she never thanked me for and have ended up discarded in the sink, and she's often complained about the seasoning. If she has so many complaints, I wish she would just cook for herself, but it seems she doesn't want to do any housework.
The stir-fry is so half-hearted, I don't want to eat it. Cook it properly from scratch.
Well, I'm busy and can only make simple things.
That's why I hate backtalk from a daughter-in-law. I said cook from scratch.
If you have so many complaints, why don't you cook? You are a good cook, right?
What are you saying? Why would I do housework when you're here? Are you out of your mind?
No more than you.
What's that tone? You're so irritating.
When I retorted a little, my mother-in-law got angry and her face turned red. I thought that getting so angry would raise her blood pressure and be bad for her health, so I decided to ignore her. Then the attitude of my husband and mother-in-law started to change. They were so arrogant, but suddenly they stopped talking. Instead, they started to completely ignore me. Hey, haven't you put out your lunchbox yet? I need to wash it. Hey, I'm talking to you. Please don't leave the candy wrappers lying around. It'll attract bugs. Are you listening? They started to completely ignore me. I felt utterly drained, as if I was dealing with a creature that didn't understand a word I was saying. I wondered why I had to live with such a human being, but I couldn't bring myself to get a divorce. That's because I thought our young son still needed his father. And so, 5 years passed. Both my husband and I turned 35, and our son was now 9. My mother-in-law was 65. How long will I have to continue this kind of life? I feel like I'm invisible. It doesn't matter whether I exist or not. I feel really ridiculous. On my way home from work, I muttered to myself. The only person who spoke to me at home was my son. If even my son were to reject me, I might truly become an unnecessary person. I felt really sad, as if people thought I wasn't needed in this world. When I got home, I started cooking immediately. Everyone must be hungry, I thought, and decided to make some delicious Chinese food. I made mapo tofu, fried chicken, and a stir-fry with bell peppers and sliced pork. But it seemed John wanted to put mayonnaise on his fried chicken. The first time he opened his mouth to talk in a long time was to tell me to quickly grab it from the fridge.
Bring me the mayo.
Sure, here you are. I took the mayo out of the fridge and handed it to him. The first time he spoke to me in a long time was neither to say it was delicious nor to thank me, just an order. I was really fed up. Then my mother-in-law turned to me and said with a very malicious face, "Clean the toilet." What?
The toilet. Clean it right now.
I'll do it later. Don't say such a thing while we're eating. It's nasty.
What?
Just like your heart.
What? You really know how to annoy me, don't you?
My mother-in-law screamed, left her dishes as they were, and went back to her room. I couldn't understand her nerve to tell me to clean the toilet during a meal. She probably just wanted to be mean to me. But wouldn't she think it's disgusting and not appropriate for mealtime? Well, if she were a reasonable person, she wouldn't say that in the first place. Because I snapped back a little, my mother-in-law got mad, so my husband told me to apologize.
What the hell are you saying to my mom? Apologize.
No.
What?
So you finally speak after 5 years and that's all you can say? Who do you think you are?
I'm your husband, so don't talk back.
Oh, my husband, huh? If I had been treated better, I would have thought of serving you as a wife should. But I've been ignored all along. Why did you ignore me?
That's because you have an attitude. I thought I would punish you.
I see. I don't care though.
Hey, where do you think you're going?
I don't feel like eating anymore. I'm going back to my room. I finished my meal and I quickly headed to my room. Since my relationship with John has cooled off, we have separate bedrooms, so I went into my room. I opened my laptop and downloaded divorce papers. It's so convenient these days how I don't need to go to the courthouse to get the papers. I immediately filled them out and I slapped them in front of John. Hey, I'm going to file these.
Huh? What's this?
As you can see, they're divorce papers.
Wait, a divorce?
Yes. John seemed flustered, but I was very calm. He probably thought he would never be served with divorce papers. But I'd reached my limit, and I knew I couldn't live in this in-law house any longer. Even if I left the in-law house, I'm not confident that I could improve my relationship with John. After all, he's not trying to change, so I don't have the confidence to meet him halfway.
Why are you suddenly talking about divorce? You're not acting normal.
You were always taking me for granted and ignoring me, right? I'm at my limit. I don't see any good in being with you anymore, so I want to end it.
What? Are you going to abandon me?
I don't know what to say to that. Actually, John was unemployed at that time. He used to work as a corporate employee, but he had caused so many issues that he was fired. He tried looking for a job several times since then, but he seemed to have lost his motivation to work. So, it's almost like I'm the one supporting him. John used to tell me he was the one providing for me and giving me food. This was while I was on maternity leave, but I was just on leave, not unemployed. Yet he acted so superior, talking down to me and making me angry. The money to buy baby clothes and formula came from my savings, and I honestly thought he didn't care about our child at all. John used to act so arrogant, but now he's unemployed and being supported by me, so he would be in trouble if I left. Because his mom, my mother-in-law, isn't receiving any pension. His dad used to be self-employed, but it seems like he'd been avoiding paying into his pension. As a result, they couldn't receive any survivor's pension, and even though he's 65 now, he hasn't received any old age pension. His dad said paying into a pension was a waste. But didn't he think it might cause trouble when he couldn't receive it in the future because he hadn't paid it?
What are you planning to do leaving us like this?
I will live with our son, just the two of us. It's easier that way.
I won't allow it. Please give me custody.
You're unemployed. There's no way you can support him. Since you stopped working, I've been the one supporting this house.
But I want to be with Jacob. Just give me custody.
Don't act so high and mighty when you never really cared about Jacob. While we were arguing, my mother-in-law came out of her bedroom. Then she started yelling at me.
Listening to you, you're so selfish. Don't you want to contribute to this house?
No, I don't.
Don't talk back. You're just a daughter-in-law. If you're gone, how are we supposed to get by?
Why don't you ask your boyfriend to lend you some money?
What?
You're dating Mr. Brown from 3 houses down, right? He's incredibly wealthy, lives in a mansion, even has housekeepers.
How do you know that?
I saw you and Mr. Brown the other day, hand in hand, enjoying a date. You two disappeared into the hustle and bustle of downtown. You even did something quite inappropriate.
What?
Can I show this to his wife? She would be quite furious.
Stop it.
When I showed her the photo I had taken on my phone, she was furious. My mother-in-law was in a relationship with a married man from our neighborhood named Mr. Brown. He was a very wealthy man living in a mansion and employing several housemates. His wife was very refined, a lovely lady. I'm certain she'd blow up if she saw this photo. Even a seemingly gentle wife would not remain quiet when she found out that her husband was dating one of their neighbors. Both Mr. Brown and my mother-in-law in their 60s. It seems my mother-in-law approached him because of his wealth. Can you believe I was ordered to clean the toilet while eating by such a vile person? You're so grimy. You'd suit cleaning the bathroom during meals. Now I have to tell his wife.
Stop it.
Oh, sorry. I actually already told her.
What?
I have her email address, you know. She's a yoga teacher, right? I was invited for her class once and we exchanged email addresses.
No way.
So, I've already sent the photo.
No.
Shortly thereafter, Mr. Brown's wife arrived. She was a lovely elderly woman. Her cheeks are normally pale and slightly blushed, but they were bright red now. She must have been incredibly angry.
You've been dating my husband?
That's...
Hannah told me what a filthy woman you are. But I was lonely. I don't care about your circumstances. I'm just furious. Of course, I'll divorce my husband, but you're also to be blamed, so reflect on your actions. It's this daughter-in-law's fault if she hadn't told you.
My mother-in-law was crying and sniffling, but Mr. Brown's wife didn't forgive her. I felt a bit sorry for my mother-in-law who was crying and collapsed at the entrance, but I knew I shouldn't sympathize here. If I became kind here, she would get cocky again and would certainly repeat the same mistake.
Look at what you've done. Mom's in a terrible situation because of you. Hannah, apologize.
I'm not the one in the wrong. I won't apologize.
You insolent thing, apologize now.
I refuse. As my husband and I were arguing, the wife intervened, and then she said this.
Hannah, you're planning on leaving your husband, aren't you?
Yes, because I've been treated horribly up to this point.
In that case, you should do it thoroughly. This man, he's dating our young maid.
What?
I saw them together today. Your husband and our maid were holding hands and then they were being inappropriate on the street.
What did you say? Believe it or not, my asinine husband, John, was having an affair with a maid from the Browns' house. There were several maids working there, but he was involved with the youngest one, and apparently things had gotten pretty intimate. I was already contemplating divorce because I was fuming from being mistreated and ignored by him, but now, as if heaping on more sins, his infidelity had been exposed. At this point, I thought there's no choice left but to take him down to the ground. Initially, he was someone I loved, but now he's nothing but a nuisance to me, and a man like him is no good as a role model for our child. I had been tolerating him for the sake of our son, but a father like him is worse than having no father at all. Why didn't I decide to divorce him sooner? I deeply regret it, but it's no use crying over spilled milk now. You're the worst, John. I will never forgive you. You need to pay child support.
Wait a minute, I'm unemployed.
So what? You still have some savings, right? You can pay child support from that.
If I do that, I will be penniless. Are you okay with me starving on the streets?
We're parting ways, so whatever happens to you is none of my business.
You're cold. You shouldn't be saying that.
You have the audacity to say that after treating me coldly all this while? I don't care anymore. I'm leaving. I immediately started packing with my son. If I stayed in this house any longer, I felt like I'd go crazy. So I thought I should return to my parents' house. John tried to stop me, but I didn't listen to him anymore. No matter what he said, I was intent on divorcing him. In the end, he didn't agree to submitting the divorce papers, so it ended up being a messy divorce lawsuit. His responsibility was acknowledged in court, so he had to pay me damages. I also claimed child support, which he somehow managed to pay in a lump sum. Apparently, he borrowed money to pay it off. And then my spiteful mother-in-law got sued for damages by Mrs. Brown. With no pension or any form of income, she decided to start working part-time to pay off her debts. For my mother-in-law, who had never worked and lazed around the house all day, labor was a tremendous struggle. She started a job in cleaning, but she's always slacking off and getting scolded by her co-workers. She's also working at a cash register as a second job, but she's never done that before and seems to be getting sarcastic comments from the young college students working there. Since she was living leisurely without helping in her husband's business, I think she's just now learning the harshness of society. I returned to my parents' home and lived there for a while, but I found out that a great apartment was available near my office, so I decided to move there. I'm living there with my son now, and it's very comfortable. There's absolutely nothing to complain about. I asked my son if he was sad not being able to see his dad, but he simply replied, "Not at all." It made me realize that if his presence was negative for our son as well, I should have divorced him sooner. From now on, I intend to work hard at everything to ensure that my son never has to face any hardships.